Hey there, aspiring guitarist. You may wonder what is up on the screen, and it's going to have a little bit to do with the topic we're going to get on today. And that topic is why add an electric guitar, especially if you're already an acoustic, and we're not trying to start that war. Well, it's not to do this, although I'm going to have a lesson on this guitar and now it might even be the one you want, even if you don't put stickers on it like I did. But that's a whole nother topic. But it's an interesting guitar. I think you'll like it. So, why add electric? Well, it's not to continue the electric versus acoustic fight. Y'all know I started on an acoustic. I've talked about the arguments that are made. We've even had a video or two. Well, if you play an acoustic, you can play an electric. If you do this, and it goes back and forth. Yeah, but you don't want to put somebody on something they're fighting. I mean, this argument goes on and on and on. So let's get past that part. Okay, that starts. It's like fried eggs and scrambled. I've done videos about why you might want to consider a heavy guitar, and it immediately starts the thing, and that's fine. That's just life. That's just human nature. But why would you possibly even want to add an electric if you're playing an acoustic? Well, you may not. You may be happily fine with your acoustic, and that's all you do. Now, I played an acoustic. Remember, I started at age 13. No, I started at age 11. I was in a folk group by 13. And then by the time I was 14, I had an Epiphone, then I had an Ovation Balladeer that I'd saved up and bought on my own, which made it even more important to me. It's a whole nother topic. And I bought an Ibanez Black Beauty, and I had this giant Fender Super Twin Reverb tube amp that actually people can define it all kind of ways, but I would lug that thing into church, and I could have actually blasted everybody out of the seats with those four speakers. I mean, it was an amp that was designed to project. Amps have come so far now. So anyway, back to the question. Why would you add an electric? Well, okay, there's lots of reasons. Sound, we'll talk about that. Playability, we'll talk about that too. And sound. Wait, didn't I already say sound? Well, sound is one of the biggest reasons that I added an electric. So, playing with others or live. You may have to mic up an acoustic if you're playing with others. Many acoustics have an acoustic electric, but that's just mostly a volume projection. Depending on the pickup you have, the style of pickup, you may get some tone variance, and you can get real deep. I've got some acoustic electric hybrids that can do all kind of things, but you may need to be louder than what an acoustic can project. I've talked to y'all about the reason I used to play big dreadnoughts, wide, like the big giant S.J. Gibson jumbos, was to project. Well, you can project easier when you have an amplifier, but we're going to get part two. Notice there's a part two down there. You may not need to go invest in a ton of amplifiers, but you do need to realize that one of the reasons a lot of people, myself included, started embracing electric was the sound. It's real easy. Maybe this isn't the word I need to use. I'm not going to give up my love of acoustics. There's just something about the wood tonal qualities, about picking up a guitar that you need nothing else, that is so appealing to me. But acoustics and electrics are different animals. But once you start down the road of electrics, I think you're going to find that sound and playability become a big issue. It's usually, I try to do that so much, usually, sometimes, most of the time, it's subjective, and, and somebody's going to argue it every single time. That's okay, argue it, go ahead, go for it. But at any rate, you're gonna, I'm not going to tell you you're going to. I found that, yeah, playing an acoustic was harder to play than an electric. But yeah, probably the fact that I've spent most of my life playing acoustic before I really got into electrics had a big deal with how easy it was to move up and down the fretboard on electric, especially with bar chords and power chords, which we got a whole nother thing on power chords. But once I started exploring electrics, then I started getting different type of electric guitars, amps, things like that. But I didn't go crazy with amps. We're going to have a whole thing on amps. In fact, I'm going to show you how to get tones in part 2 and 3 of guitar and find out tones without having to buy tons and tons and tons of amp. There are ways to do it with everything from miniature amps that plug into your jack to headsets to small amps to all kind of things. But that's coming. So your fingers can explore different techniques. Even with acoustic guitars, my acoustics, they still play different. The scale is different. The nut width is different. And you know what I'm talking about. I'll pull it up again. The nut width. Where the headstock crosses over to the neck, this is the nut. And that width, along with the scale from the measurement from the nut down to the saddle on the bridge, is the scale length. The radius of the back of the neck, the radius. I have StewMac tools, and I'm going to do a video on that one day that shows you how to measure radius, but the playability of an electric can allow you to do new things. So that's something. Now, to end this video, and thank you for being with us, do I have to buy big amps and lots of pedals? I mean, you can spend a fortune seeking that tone, and that's fine. I mean, a lot of people, why do you have so many guitars? I've addressed that over and over again. It's my hobby. It's what I do. It helped me with my hand. It helps me with kids. It helps me with blah, 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 blah. Part 2 is going to be how can you move to an electric, not spend a fortune, and maybe which ones to consider if you're going to make that leap. And you may not want to make that leap. I will always respect choices. I always will, even if you want to be, oh, you're just wrong. Okay, then I'm wrong for you. But I'm here to help you have a blessed guitar journey, and I hope this is going to help. So why add an electric? We've kind of covered that. We're going to go into a little in depth further. So, hey, I am so glad you're with us. I'm so glad you're watching. And most of all, have a blessed guitar journey and happy picking.